Well, welcome to the Beyond Cinema studio at Tiff, Ralph Fiennes Felicity Jones. Firstly, congratulations on the film. What did you learn from directing Coriolanus that made you either, want to direct or avoid directing?
Well, I thought I'd learned that I wouldn't want to do the same together again, but then I ended up doing it.
But directing, producing, and acting in it, filmmaking's a collaborative process, right? That's what we hear. But taking on all those roles, how far into the process did you decide that Dickens had to be you?
Well, I worked on the script for about a year with Abby Morgan, and at that time, I was approached by producers who said, "We would like you to play Dickens if you want to, and to direct." And I knew I wanted to direct it, but I worked on it, and I started off quite relatively firmly thinking, I don't want to do it. And then as I worked on it, I couldn't help but be drawn to him.
Why? Was it the family of actors that he was a part of as well that resonated?
Well, he's a man of huge contradictions and huge extremes. That's always great to play when someone has contradictory qualities within them. He's very vivacious. He's very a vital man. He has extraordinary amounts of energy, very social, and yet he was also, I think, had an sort of interior anger and frustration, and was a very controlling man. He was a difficult father, I think, and the way he left his wife was, I think, pretty cruel. But he was a man he's unhappy in his marriage. He's a frustrated man, and so there are all these different sort of qualities in him. But the energy of Dickens, the vitality of Dickens, is very attractive to want to play.
To me, it was a big surprise learning that he was such a great orator and that his events were such huge social events.
They were. He was huge. He was I believe, to be a good actor. Certainly, apparently his readings of his own work were stunning and dramatic.
What was the biggest surprise to you to discover about him undergoing your process with him?
Probably the sort of interior fragility inside him. I think a sort of a little lost boy inside this man of his ferocious energy.
Felicity, there's kind of a reference in the movie to people with whom their words we want to kind of experience and we want to dally. I think the phrase in the film is that we want to kind of dally with those people, and your character obviously has this secret that she's hiding from people, and she grew up in and around Charles Dickens. For you personally, with whose words did you dally growing up?
You mean in terms of...
Like, was there someone that you were kind of similarly inspired or obsessed with?
When I was growing up, I really liked Enid Blyton.
Yeah. Magic Faraway Tree, right?
Yeah, so she wrote the famous Five, and what else did I read? St. Clair's and Mallory Towers. I was really into boarding school books for some bizarre reason.
Did you go to boarding school?
No, not at all. I think I just had fantasies of escape from my parents.
Do you keep, like, in terms of on a project like this, did you find any souvenirs that you needed to keep?
From this film?
Yeah.
Well, I used to have a tendency of when I would do a part in something, I'd be obsessed about trying to keep hold of the costumes, and then I suddenly realised there was something going on that I was, trying to hang on to the character in some way, and so now I sort of try and when the film is finished, just let it be and try and have a bit of distance from it.
You don't have a big bustle dress.
So I don't. Yeah, no, just hanging in my closet. No.
Do you have a big bustle dress hanging in your closet? What did you keep from the?
I have quite a few bustle dresses.
Yeah.
Hanging. Yeah. No, they're good to get into now and again when the pressures of directing get to me, and I put them on and feel a complete woman.
What do you keep
other
than the film itself? Like, what do you take souvenirs from projects?
I have done in the past. I have taken clothes, and then clothes I think I will wear. Like,
and then you never wear them.
Wear them.
It's so weird. Yeah.
Did you take some? Did you have or collect anything?
I took a bunch of shirts from the English Patient, which I still wear. Very lovely, like thin cotton shirts.
Put those on eBay. Make loads of money.
But you weren't inspired to collect any original Dickens signature or something similar on this project?
No, but I have been given a Dickens signature and a piece of envelope with his writing on it.
In terms of the scope of this film, I love the cinematography of it and how it opens on this large expanse and then obviously ends in this very tight close-up, this unidentifiable woman who then becomes, very clear. In terms of your directing style, is that like something you map out from the get-go? Are you a kind of overly planned director that you try and kind of create the whole thing in your
No, I don't think
first,
I'm, having worked with one or two directors who are very planned, I don't feel I'm overly planned. I think it's helpful for me to draw, not strictly professional storyboards, but I like to draw images that are close to a kind of storyboard feel, just little rough sketches, and that really helps me find my way into it visually. In fact, the visual, to draw things helps me really get a coherent grasp on it. So that's helpful, and so quite a few, pretty much all the scenes I would have drawn little pictures for.
You mentioned the shirts, obviously, from The English Patient, but working with people like Redford and Spielberg and Minghella over the years, was there, when you started directing, was there a conscious emulation of a certain environment that one of those directors or a couple of those directors created on set that you wanted to recreate?
Well, I think maybe all of these directors, they feed into you a little bit, because Steven Spielberg has fantastic energy. His set, that you feel you're moving very fast, which I love the feeling that I think it's great for the crew as well, that they feel that you're moving through the day. There's nothing, I think it can, when suddenly directors get stuck on a scene or a shot, and suddenly you can feel the day sag, and it sort of ripples through the crew and you can feel it. But another director who was very present in my mind was Anthony Minghella, because he had a very quiet persona when he was directing, and was also his vocabulary for talking to actors was brilliant, and he was very good at nurturing performances out and guiding you away from things perhaps that were not working into other areas. He was very, very articulate, a highly sensitive man. So if I could have a little bit of his on-set persona, I'd be happy.
I'd love to have worked with him.
Yeah, he was terrific.
Yeah.
Felicity, that opening scene that, of you walking, and the walking itself becomes such a central thing to your character and her way of dealing. For you, was it that the walking kind of enabled her mind to run and wander, or to stop it from wandering? And
I think the walking is a time when she can be completely in her own head and let her thoughts just run without end. And I felt like she was a woman who, when we meet her at the beginning of the film, she has a lot of responsibilities, and it's almost like a pressure cooker on her, but there's this immense relationship she's had with Dickens that she is in the process of negotiating, and that relationship with him was not straightforward in any way for her. And I think I loved it in the screenplay that you see Nellie, it opens and she's directing one of Dickens's plays, and I always felt like that was her trying to find her power over him in some way, and that she'd felt throughout their relationship it was a constant struggle for her own intellectual identity, and it's this wrestle between this man that she was fantastically in love with, but also I think at times she found overwhelming.
There's so many references in the film, kind of like that, but also that can be applied to your lives generally as actors and people in the public eye. Your kind of questioning of the hawkers and admirers, and whether someone likes that or
The
not.
hawkers, that's his word.
Did you, did you draw those parallels? Do you think about that stuff now that your career's kind of taken off as well? And are you comfortable with that aspect of it, the hawkers and the admirers, and that necessity? Is that a necessary evil or a pleasure?
It feels it's a very strange thing, because obviously you become an actor because you hopefully you like telling stories, and I love being in theatres and on film sets, and then this strange sort of negotiation with it becoming public property, which it is. I always find quite difficult personally. Sometimes I think it'd be nice to just make things and no one ever see it, but then that kind of defeats the object. Yeah, I mean, you've had to deal with it a lot longer. How do you find it?
I think you're right. I think this, you put it very well. This negotiation with the thing that you're in, becoming public, but that which is what you want. But it's the curiosity that goes beyond that, and about you yourself. You know, I mean, I think it's always going to be the case with you know, the private and the public. With anyone in any public role has to at some point, I think, get to the interface where the privacy is being tested. I think, and it's in the case in, you know, I mean, in fact, Nellie Turnan kept it secret. I mean, all her life she never spoke about Dickens, except to, we believe, the Reverend Benham, the man, the priest in the film.
In fact, for you as a director, is it a chance for you to reunite with friends? Obviously, Kristen Scott Thomas is someone you've worked with before, quite famously. But is it for you like this real opportunity to gather the people around you who you've truly loved working with, as well as make?
Oh, sure. Well, there are friends. You know, if I have the chance to direct another film, and I hope I do, I'd love to work with friends. But you know, I think the main thing is that you got to get the right people in the right roles, and it's great if they can be friends. And I had another friend, Tom Hollander, who plays Wilkie Collins, also a very good friend.
Perhaps not such a lonely dragon after all. Very cool. Well, thanks for spending a few minutes with us. We appreciate it.
Thank
All right.
you.
Cheers.
Thanks.